Hello, Black Healing Matters family. This is Danielle here, the Black Healing Matters podcast, where we offer you new ideas to hopefully move you one step closer to your healing. Happy Friday to you. You made it yet another week. It is now almost the end of May, going into a summer. Hopefully the weather is changing and feeling good wherever you are in the world, wherever this meets your ears. And on this wonderful Finance Friday, I have our resident finance expert, okay? The one who brings the most, she delivers every time for us. You know who I'm talking about. Yes, we have once again the one and only Miss Tasha Danielle of Financial Garden. Tasha, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, Danielle. Thank you for that welcome too.
I love having you, Tasha. It's always a pleasure, truly. Not just because you're so beautiful and wonderful, right? Because you always deliver as well. And the feedback is amazing. So, Black Healing Matters family, if you haven't heard any of the previous episodes with Tasha, including her story and how she started Financial Garden, and how she paid off over $80,000 of debt before she was 30 years old. If you haven't heard those episodes, you need to go back into the vault, and you owe it to yourself to listen to those previous episodes, because Tasha really has a story, and we don't have time to go into it all today, but I'm telling you, you owe it to yourself to listen to her story and what she's been able to accomplish. And I think that will be a great backdrop to the conversation that we're going to have today on the topic of long-term budgeting. So in the past, we have talked about, or Tasha talked about rather, how she paid off, again, $80,000 of debt in a pretty short period of time. And obviously, to do that takes a lot of sacrifice, takes a lot of discipline and budgeting. But what about the long term? How do you budget for the long term? How do you budget to make sure that your family has long-term stability, has a kind of a more or less stable financial environment? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And I know Tasha has some fire to deliver to you, right? So, Tasha, resident expert. And also, she's a certified public accountant too, y'all. Like, no joke. She's a real expert, okay? Not the one, not self-proclaimed. She's got the life to prove it, okay? So
Instagram self-proclaimed.
Yes, not one of those.
No.
So, Tasha, what's your first piece of advice for those of us who need help with our long-term budgeting?
I always tell people to set goals first before you do anything with money. You need to get to your why. Because if you don't start with that, then you won't stay on track. Then you will be like, this is stupid. I feel like I'm making a lot of sacrifices. So number one, set goals. And I want to recommend a book that changed my life, Glinda Bridgforth Hodges' book, Girl, Get Your Money Straight. And this book is talking about finance from a holistic perspective. And it really makes the reader sit down and get to their why. Not just their why, but like how to create goals for their appearance, professionally, family goals. So it really stretches you. So I always recommend that book first when, starting to even think about budgeting or whatever. It's a pretty quick read. So head over and purchase it. I think it's available on Amazon. Second,
I would say I haven't actually read that book, but when you say holistic approach to finances, I think that's dead on, because a lot of times we see like budgeting and money as just like this one box or this one category, not realizing how emotional and how like emotionally attached we are to money, and how that's hugely important to who we are, you know what I mean, and our lifestyle. So holistically agree.
Yeah, definitely get that book. You know, it's really a game changer.
Okay. What's the second tip you were going to give us today?
Automate. So I love budgeting. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I'm a money nerd. So I'm a little bit different from the average person. A lot of people are like, I don't want to sit down and write a budget. I don't want to write my income and write out every expense and plan for how I'm gonna spend my money. Okay, I get it. I get it.
All day.
I can tell you to use Mint. I can tell you Mint is a budget application. I can tell you to use YNAB, why you need a budget application, but if you are not going to stick to it, what's the point? One way to make sure you stick to it is by automating your money. So having separate accounts. So when I paid off $80,000 of debt, I went strictly cash, except for like my bills, my rent, or whatever. That was not, I didn't go in and pay that in cash, but everything else was in envelopes. So I had a food envelope, a gas envelope. Once I paid off my debt, it went to automated with different bank accounts. So I have an account for my bills. I have an account I do give to my church. So I tithe. So I have an account that's going to that. That's not in with my bills. I have a savings account for travel. I have all these different accounts because there's no way I can overlap or touch stuff that I don't want to, that it's not going to align with my goals. So if you're just getting started off and you're like, I don't want to do a budget, or you have a budget and you're not sticking to it, you wrote it out on a piece of paper and you're like, it's just there, I strongly suggest you just open, you have at least 3 accounts. One account is strictly for your bills. So that's your rent, mortgage, if you have car payment, any bills that are due, that's not fluctuating or whatever. Have one account for that, so you know that you won't ever touch that. You won't overdraft your account because that's strictly for that. I wouldn't even have a debit card to that account, so you can't touch it unless you have to go in the bank. The second account would be for your savings. And I don't agree. I don't think people should save just to save. So figure out what your savings number will be. So what's your comfort? What are you comfortable with having in the bank, or what do you feel like it would be a necessity? Mm-hmm. So usually people feel like if they had, I read an article, if you had $1,000 emergency, would it be a devastating blow? And most people are like, yeah. So maybe $1,000, $2,000. That account you don't touch unless it's like an emergency. And the third one would be for your spend. However you want to do it, so it won't be so overwhelming. For me, I have a lot of accounts because that's what makes me sleep well at night. But for certain people, they're like, even 3 accounts may sound weird. So one for your bills, one for your saving, or once you hit that saving goal, don't touch it. Mm-hmm. And then the last one is for your money. So this is if you go to the movies, if you go out to eat, if you're getting pedicure, manicure, hair, everything, that will be in that account, and you can manage it how you need to. And if you feel like it's not enough, well, you got to make it work.
Yeah, I'll go make some more money. Yep, I feel you on that. I for me, that has been one of the real, very powerful techniques that I use. I read a book a long time ago called Automatic Millionaire. And I forgot who the writer was, but I'll link it. I'll try to remember to link it in the show notes. But Automatic Millionaire basically explains that, by automating things instead of spending time, writing checks or going online to pay every specific bill, or, instead of actually, doing that, automating everything, even your savings, it can basically make you a millionaire. And putting your savings first. Like for me, that was huge. Like putting my savings first instead of it being like whatever I have left over. Yeah, like I always, because I see it as paying myself. Like if I'm gonna be the one working here, You know, I'm the one, it's because of my labor that this income has arrived, you know, then I'm definitely going to pay me first. And
Exactly.
to me, that means I've gone without paying bills on time. And I know that that's a no-no, but I'll pay a bill. I will not pay a bill instead of paying myself. I'll pay myself.
You go with me. I don't operate like that.
I know that's extreme, but I'm like, hey, I pay me first. You know, everybody's different.
So yeah, to each his own. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, you know that you should never do that. If that's what you want to do with your money, that's on you. I have not read that book. It's on my to read list, but again, it's really up to what works best for you. I don't save anymore. I have a amount saved that I'm comfortable with, and now I'm all about investing at this point. I paid off all my debt. I already had that saving cushion. I don't need to save. If you keep saving, it's just gonna sit there. And I think that's one thing. That's a whole nother topic, but really, yeah.
That's
I'll
true.
move on from there.
That's true for all day. Okay. Last topic. Last point. You have one more for us, Tasha?
Yeah, I got a couple, two more.
Oh, two more. I'm sorry.
So after you automate, then think about if you're like that account that's for you to spend your money in, and you're like, this is not enough. How can you increase your income? I think a lot of people talk about cutting back all the time, but what are some ways you can bring in some more money? So for me, when I first started off on my journey, it was, I know how to live frugal, but a lot of people are like, I can't cut nothing else. So why do I need to write a budget or have long-term budget? You know, it is what it is. That mindset is going to prevent you from growth. And so I think once you figure out you have this account, let's say it's only $200 in this account for you to spend for yourself personally for the whole month. You're like, man, something about to get paid late. I'm not doing this. What are some ways you can bring in more money? So usually a lot of people think they're 9 to 5. They don't have a talent in that, but there's always a talent that you have as you're growing your skill set every day if you're going to work. So if you're a teacher, do tutoring on the side. That's extra money. So think stuff like that. You don't have to always think Lyft or Uber. There's sites like Fiverr or Upwork where you can get freelance gigs to do and set your rate. So maybe think about looking at learning how to build websites. Or if you've always been good with like graphic designs or just putting together flyers, play around and see if you can create a site and then start looking for freelance work that way. Say you're a beginner, but think about ways to grow. And I believe in law of attraction, stuff will come to you. If you have that, open your mindset to increase. So that's another tip, my third tip for you with long-term budgeting. Think increase, not just decrease.
Yes. You know, I think that when it comes to increasing our income, a lot of people think that you have to do something spectacular or like add this whole level of complexity to your life, and it really doesn't have to be that complex. Honestly, thinking about the things that people ask you for all the time, my aunt has one of the best pound cakes ever. Like, people who come from out of town to visit our family, before they, want to say hi or whatever, they want to know, when is the pound cake going to be? Like, like I have people that, like, friends that came for Thanksgiving years ago who were like, yo, does your aunt still make that pound cake? So I keep trying to tell her, like, she can make that pound cake with her eyes closed. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's been doing it for so long, she can make that pound cake with her eyes closed. Don't need no measuring cups, no spoons, no nothing. Just, like, bam, done.
You know how to do it. Come to her.
And I keep telling her, like, this is something that you need to figure out how to sell. Whether it's, selling actual cakes, or maybe even figuring out how to make a formulation where, somebody can tear open a package and pour it in a bowl and make their own. with using your recipe, a formulation of ingredients. This is something that could easily be part of your life without very much extra effort on your part, without learning something new. So point is, think about those things that you're good at, things that people ask you for, or they come to you for naturally, and start charging them, basically.
Right. And you know what? I think a lot of people are like, I don't have a talent, because I didn't think I had any talent because I didn't know how to sing or dance. I love,
Right.
in my car, I am, Beyonce, okay? You can't tell me otherwise. But I know I have no vocal range, no nothing. But anyway, my point is that you have talent. You just, you if you don't know, ask the 5 people closest to you, what am I good at? So it may not be you can sing or dance or draw, but you may be a great organizer. You may be a very strategic person thinking. And that's like one of my talents. You don't hear people broadcast that, but that's a skill that's needed.
It's very much so. Thinking, being able to speak to people, talking. Like, I didn't think of it as a talent either, but until someone told me, like, your energy is amazing. Like, you need to be doing things that showcase your energy. And how do you sell energy? But the truth is that it's very viable. Every MC, host, like, they all are selling their energy. So when you think about your talent, this could be a whole different topic altogether. But really, I feel like that's something that we a lot of times undervalue, our talent and our abilities, and think that they're not worth anything. So definitely, you're worth it. Okay, you got something. You just got to figure out what that is. Okay, last one.
I was thinking too, because I had wrote down 5. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's been a long minute.
It's okay. What's your next tip?
They kind of go hand in hand. So once you have your goals, you're automated, and you try to see what kind of way you can increase, not just thinking decrease. If you have debt, you need to kill it. So long-term budgeting, if you are saddled with debt, your long-term budgeting plan will fail, because you're always going to feel like you're in a rabbit hole. So I just want to say that. And my last point is money mindset partners. Like, I am very big on mindset, who's around you. And we talked about this briefly in another podcast. It really does matter. I double major in economics and psychology because I know they go hand in hand. And so if you are listening to this podcast, you're curious about ways to improve yourself financially, and you may have said this to someone closest to you, and they're like, oh, people always have that. Man, you never going to be able to do this, or, budgeting doesn't work. You still going to be in the same place. That negative talk podcast, as I said before, or look for a free local conference. Go on Eventbrite if you're in the States, or some other form of that, and find an event around you where you can feed off that energy, because energy is a real thing. And so I will give you an example, not about my debt journey and people like that, but just now I'm looking to grow Financial Garden. And so my friends are amazing, but your friends don't always have to support your endeavors, like talk about it constantly or whatever. So I am obsessed with a particular podcast. They had a live podcast event, and I went solo. And my goal was to connect with one other woman at that conference, because it was a women's conference that had the same mindset as me, and I did, and we are like booming. And I didn't have that energy per se in my hometown, or I had it hit or miss. It wasn't consistent, where I knew I needed to seek outside my inner circle. I'm not saying, oh my God, I outgrew my circle of friends. I'm not saying that at all. So I don't want you to think that either. If you are feeling like you're not connecting where you want to go, you can't connect with the people that you are with, then go outside your circle and find that connection. Don't discount your old circle, but think about ways. So if you listen to podcasts like this, what other podcasts are similar to this that people are listening to in your area, a meetup or something where you can, stay motivated.
That's true. It's again, energy is so important, and I think that that perfectly segues to my final tip as well, which is in your budget. You know, when you're making your budget for the long term, one of the things I find that people often neglect, or is one of the first things to kind of be, left out, or not, maybe never even considered, is investing in yourself and developing yourself. Because at the core of this budget and all these plans is you. And the reason you're doing all of this, the reason you're budgeting and, making these kinds of plans for your life is not because, you want to have necessarily, there's a certain number in your bank account. That is really irrelevant. What it comes down to is the lifestyle that you want to live, and the feelings and the experiences and the people. These are the things that you want to imbibe. So when it comes down to it, again, you're at the core of all of this. And if you're not healthy, you're not growing, you're not developing, you can be sure that everything else will be secondary at best. Like, it is not even important. I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I said I couldn't agree with you more. Sorry for cutting you off, but yeah.
No, I'm glad you agree, because just what I see so often is like, even for people like me and you, Tasha, who actually do care about budgeting, sometimes we fall into this trap of budget, money. And then at the core of it, you're miserable, you're unhealthy, you don't want to spend money on decent food, or exercise. Like, you'll go without feeding your body or exercise, or, taking care of yourself, your skin, like walking around looking like who done it. But you got money in the bank. I'm guilty of this. I'm speaking from experience now. Okay? Telling on myself. But I think the thing that I realize as I've matured and gotten older, while saving money, while building, my empire, if you will, that the most important thing that I can invest in is me.
Yes.
And I'm at the core of everything I do. And if I'm not right, nothing is right.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. You said it very well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'm really glad that you agree, because I know you're a hardcore finance expert. So
I am, but I attract people who are opposites, because I know I'm very type A. Mm-hmm. So I'm very focused, I'm very rigid. So it's a strength and it's a curse. So I'm very aware of that. And so the closest people to me are not. They're the extroverts, type B, blah, blah, blah. But I need that in my life so I won't be so rigid and not live and not, I could be doing this or whatever with my money. So I can have some type of healthy balance with it.
I used to be that way too. I think, this is a whole different conversation, but I think there's a threshold of finances that you get to. And before you get to that threshold where you can kind of breathe, it just feels like, any little thing can set you off. Like you said, for most people, a $1,000, issue, a $1,000 emergency is a catastrophe. Like, could be life threatening, financially at least, and kind of turn them upside down. And that stress, again, going back to investing in yourself, doing energy work, going to yoga, do whatever you need to do. For me, that's what it is. It's energy work. It's investing in classes and, learning how to take care of myself, learning how to do, healing modalities. I spent a lot of money and time on those things. People think I'm crazy, but it's enhanced my life and made me a lot more money, actually, because I'm a lot better at what I do because of who the energy and the feeling I have. But again, it all goes back to the idea of taking care of yourself and, being in that space. All right, let's wrap this up. Okay, I don't want to make it too long for us, but I do want to thank you again, Tasha. Again, I know you are very busy. I know that you have a whole lot of things going on right now. Black Healing Matters family. Tasha is actually teaching her program, Financial Garden program, to children in Detroit, right? Detroit Public Schools.
Yeah, Detroit and Metro Detroit areas.
Okay, so she's working in the public schools and in corporate America. Okay, so full-time corporate America and damn near full-time working with these kids too. Yes. Y'all, it's serious. Okay, so the fact that she can take time out for us is no small feat. So please do head over to her website, financialgarden.net. Sign up for her newsletter. It is phenomenal. I've been reading it, okay? It has tips for you. It has tips for your children. It's a great newsletter, and it's definitely something you should be reading, as well as keeping in contact, keeping up with what she's doing to just support her, because what she's doing is truly shaping the next generation, okay? No doubt about it. So on that note, thank you so much, Tasha. Appreciate you. Until next time, okay? Stay blessed. Don't work too hard, okay? And Black Healing Matters family, I love you. Please connect with me. Again, send me a call in. If you'd like to contribute to this conversation, if you're here on the Anchor Nation, send us a call in. Again, if you're on Facebook, Black Healing Matters on the Facebook group, as well as YouTube and SoundCloud. Or good old-fashioned email, blackhealingmatters@gmail.com. And on that note, Black Healing Matters family, we love you. Stay blessed. And as always, Black Healing Matters.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.